So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, a final whistle post-match pod, and I'm absolutely delighted to be doing it because Villa did what I wanted them to do and what everybody wanted them to do and what I kind of, I almost expected them to do, and was put in a really dominant home performance against Everton today. Aston Villa 4, Everton 0. We will obviously talk an awful lot about Aston Villa at the moment, but Everton are in trouble. That was a bad Everton performance today. A bad showing from them. At least two of the goals that they scored were completely gifted to us. Pickford coming out then for the penalty was just rash and silly. And, Aston Villa going ahead through John McGinn to start off was just a real good kind of start to the game and a real good tonic, I think, for Aston Villa, considering what happened to them the week before. I'm absolutely thrilled with that. That's, you can't ask for any better than that performance, because albeit you can only beat what's put in front of you. You have to do that. When you have a team like that are against the ropes, and it was clear from about 5-10 minutes into the game, Everton were a bit shaky, they didn't look confident, and once Villa went ahead, I said, yeah, that's it, that's good night, Irene. It's a case of now how many Villa will score. And that's not being cocky or anything like that. It's just the game just had a feeling of that from early days in the game. Thought there was some really good performances there. Leon Bailey played very well in comparison to what happened the week before. I thought he did. Yes, he had a stumble with the ball at his feet. He had one or two passes back in the infield when he was on the touchline that didn't go to feet. I thought he played well. He played better than he was a talking point beforehand, and I think he justified his starting position today with his performance. I definitely do. Obviously, the main kind of negative, I think, from today is Philippe Coutinho coming on. Well, actually, I think there's two negatives, and I'm going to talk about one in a moment. But Philippe Coutinho coming on and what looks like a nasty injury for him. And look, he's been injured an awful lot for Aston Villa last season. He's back to full health now. Villa looked like let's call it as it is. Villa were most likely going to be sending him to Qatar and recouping some of the wages and transfer fee and stuff like that they paid in him. Now it looks like he's going to have a lengthy injury, and that transfer is off, which for the club is something else they're going to have to deal with now from the point of view of roster building. That's what it just looks like, I suppose. But for the man himself, and it would be remiss not to think of that if this is another bad hamstring injury, another knee injury for him, he's not exactly in the spring of his career, and I feel sorry for him first, more so than I do when I mentioned about the transfer in the club and so on. So I hope it didn't come across as being crass that way, but hopefully he's okay. Hopefully it's not as bad as it looks, or as bad as it feels, or as bad as the commentators made it out to be. Maybe he just jarred his knee, and maybe they're taking an abundance of caution there. But hopefully, Philippe Coutinho will be okay. And for the man himself, it's not easy because his career has been blighted with injuries since he's left Liverpool. So, hope you get better soon, Philippe, and hopefully that injury isn't as bad as is first feared. But getting back to the game itself, I think, look, Aston Villa were totally on top in this game. They bossed it for, I'd say, 88 out of 90 minutes, notwithstanding that there was almost 18 minutes of extra time or injury time, time added on, whatever you want to call it. From early doors, people like John McGinn got into the game. Lucas Digne was crossing the ball in. He was whipping them in at beauties into the box. Now, when I say beauties, they look beautiful. They're into the back post. We just don't have anyone that is a back post lingerer, if that is such a word, in the team. But Lucas Digne, I thought, was very good. His yellow card early on was a bit silly, but those crosses that came into the box, I think, were quite good. And he's another one that we might see potentially won't be here come transfer deadline day. But he gave everything for Aston Villa today, and you certainly could not accuse him of not fulfilling his duties today. Albeit that there is an awful lot of talk and conjecture about him potentially leaving the club in the coming days. Other good performances today, as I say, Leon Bailey I thought was really good. I thought John McGinn was excellent. Today. Lovely turns. He one situation in the first half. He takes the ball down and turns right in the centre circle and just completely and utterly takes the kind of the stagnation out of like he used to take it down and shield it. It would have given Everton a lot of time to get back at him, but he took it down and turned all in one movement. I thought he was fantastic. Thought he was really, really good today. I thought Matty Cash was good today. Albeit, some players went off on about the 65th minute and were replaced. Diego Carlos came on. It was fantastic to see him. And let's be remiss not to say that John Duran came in and got his goal, albeit that Ashley Young forgot who he was playing for and passed the ball more or less straight to him. Great finish from John Duran there, and hopefully that's the first of many in Villa colours. An inspired substitution, you might say, by Unai Emery, but he looked like he enjoyed it. And for a young man that plays the game like he's still out in the streets, like he's like we all did, jumpers for goalpost style stuff. He plays it with this abundance of joy and of raw passion and of he doesn't look like he's been tamed in his love for the game yet, which is good and which I would not like to see, because I think there's a certain romance that, and there's a certain I would argue and say that that Leo Messi was never tamed in the game of football either. Obviously, I'm not comparing the two, but you know what I mean. That sometimes you have a player like that just loves football and will play it his way, and I'm okay for Duran to do that, but his goal was very good. I mentioned that there was probably one other kind of down point I think that's worth talking about, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. I thought Ollie Watkins looked very lackluster today. He had opportunity after opportunity. He was caught from behind an awful lot. So when the ball came to him, Nathan Patterson just waited for him to get the ball and just came in and took the ball off him. He had a one-on-one opportunity that he skewed wide of the goalkeeper's right hand post. It was just it looked a small little bit lax from Ollie Watkins today. Hopefully that's his one out of the way, and we can see him progress. Now, like his work out of possession and his work in positioning and stuff like that was still fantastic. But when the ball came to him, he looked like he wanted extra time, and potentially he played to the level that Everton centre halves are playing, because I thought Michael Keane was a bit ropey today throughout the whole game, and I thought their midfield, specifically Idrissa Gueye, I thought was really poor today, and I didn't see anything from Onana. I said beforehand in the pre-match podcast, not the Team Sheet Tantrum, the pre-match one on Thursday, that who would get into this team, and I think I said, Onana, if Onana was playing for Aston Villa, I think he'd be in midfield, but he certainly didn't show it today, I don't think. Big and all as he is, Villa just bossed that midfield. They got control of it early on. They went wide when they needed to. Everton pushed their fullback up in Nathan Patterson like I expected them to, and Luke Dean had the freedom of that left-hand side. Ashley Young, love him and all as I do for his time at Aston Villa. I thought Leon Bailey and Diaby consistently picked on him down that right-hand side and got the better of him nearly every single time. And I think that the tactics today for Aston Villa were absolutely spot on. So good performance, as I said. The only real negative is that the Coutinho looks like he's picked up a bad injury. The Ollie Watkins thing, I'm not desperately worried about or anything. But that the only real negative is the Coutinho picked up an injury. Paddy's going to join me in a moment. He was at the Boozer for this, but he said that he will join me in a moment. I'm going to come to some of your comments there as well. CC says, great bounce back. Subom Gamer, I think it is, says get in. Pete still says great performance. We're back on track. Yeah, I think having a goal difference of 0 now is good. After getting a 5-1 tonking last week, we brought that back to 0. I know it's 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 a small thing, but it is what it is. Billy Jones says the response was needed. We were close. Adam Slack says my 5-0 was pretty close. I thought we'd get there for a finish. My God, I never even mentioned Moussa Diaby's shot that, in fairness to Jordan Pickford, he saves it onto the post and comes right across the goals. That was a wicked shot from Diaby, a wicked, great technique in it as well. Bit close to Pickford, but that's okay. And as my little man here, that my little 14-week-old boy here gets in the action. I don't know if you guys could hear him there, but Pickford saved it onto the post, and fair play to him for that. Where are we? Let's see here. Michael O'Brien says most pleased with clean sheet too. I just always felt we keep a clean sheet from early doors in this one. I felt prior to the game, I felt we keep a clean sheet here too. I don't know. It just felt like a game that we needed, and a game that came at the right time for us. We always Everton and Aston Villa throughout the years is obviously a historic tie. Recently, we always seem to have, it seems like we get the better of them. Remember Leon Bailey's debut, was it the one where Matty Cash banged one in, and Leon Bailey did he score? He took the corner and Luke Dean hit off Luke Dean's head. And went in. That game is one that lives in my memory as well, when we won 3-0, I think, that day too. It's just, it seems to be one that when we need it come along, it comes along. Wesley's first goal, a ball played down the side of Yerry Mina in that game as well, under lights on a Friday night, or I think it was, bang, in the back of the net. Superb goal, but it's one we needed. We got to win that day. Last year when we played this game, second game of the season, we needed it, albeit that Diego Carlos got injured late on, almost similar to what's happened here. We had another Brazilian get injured in this game, but we needed that game, that win, to get us over the line. And it seems to be one that I always felt kind of confident in, and will allow us to build our confidence, regroup, get back. I imagine there's going to be signings come in this season, or this week, signing anyway, if not signings. People going out now might be curtailed, but if Coutinho's injury is as bad as is first feared, well, then that's another person that needs to be replaced, and I've got utmost faith that we will be able to do that for sure. Ian Smith asks, where's Paddy? He'll be on soon. As I say, he was with the Munster Lions for this one. So Gary Howlett says we have to sell Dean now, Neil. I don't know, do we have to sell him? But I'd imagine that could have been his farewell game. I'm not pro selling Digne. If it means selling him for the bank balance, and we obviously have a ready-made replacement coming in, well, then I'm okay with that from a roster construction point of view. I think that's all right. Plus, Alex Moreno is back training now. I would imagine he might even be back in the team after the Burnley game. I think you agree with that, little man, don't you? I think he might even be back in contention after the Burnley game potentially. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there. Where else are we? There was one here. Where's it gone to? It says we didn't even get out of second gear. I agree with that. I think we bossed that game while, like as I said, last two goals Everton gave us, we completely nearly gifted us. So like the goal from Bailey was our throw in, and Everton just completely turned off, and great finish from Bailey. And then the last goal, then, as I said, was a throw in from Everton, and they completely switched off, and Duran comes in and slots it in the back of the net. So I'm so glad both of those scored. I really, really am so glad both of those scored, because it's confidence. I had a tweet written after 15 minutes about Leon Bailey, maybe after about 8 minutes about Leon Bailey, saying I'm okay for people to play themselves into form and into confidence, but I don't know whether it should be done in such a public setting. I was going to write that about Leon Bailey prior to the game. I'm glad I didn't, because he looked, as the game went on, that he got a bit more confident, albeit he did some frustrating things here. Patrick has joined us, and he's just going to come on here. And also, I don't know, Paddy might be able to tell me, can you guys hear my little lad here cooing in the background here and giving us his opinion? Not Paddy giving us his opinion. My little boy is sitting here beside me as well. He's all decked out here. Hello, say hello to everybody. There he is. For anybody who didn't watch that on YouTube, that's the heir to the throne. And all his grandeur after 14 weeks of life. So
it sounds like he's already talking as much as his father.
Well, yeah, I'd no DNA test needed there anyway, that's for sure. What do you make of it, Paddy?
Oh, look, it's great when you can. I just came in there and heard somebody saying we didn't get out of second gear. It's great to score 4 goals without reply and not get out of second gear. Was it perfect? No, it wasn't perfect, but absolutely brilliant to be. The most important thing is that we rewrote last week and got a fresh start. So here we are looking a whole lot prettier in the league table and looking a whole lot better attraction for someone who might come in through the door. So, I very few complaints to make today. I thought everybody at least put in a shift. There was a few people off the boil. Ollie Watkins didn't do a whole pile today. Bailey made a couple of mistakes, but then made up for it with a goal, even though he hit it straight at the goalkeeper. But look, I'm only picking at straws. We were excellent. We were absolutely excellent. And very, very little we can complain about today. And just relax now and enjoy it, and head on to Burnley next week.
We might head on to Burnley. Just looking at Twitter there to gauge reactions. We might head on to Burnley next week without Jayden Philogene-Bades. I think we might as well talk about it here. It looks like that Hull are in talks with Villa over a permanent move for Jayden Philogene, and the deal is very, very close. It says here. I'm looking at 4 different sources here that say that as well. Yeah. It looks like he's on his way to Hull. I wonder, is this one of these Monchi specials? Look, if we're selling these guys, there must be players coming in. There just has to be. I know no wants to work with it, but we can, like, at this rate, we've been naming three goalkeepers, and imagine that team sheet tantrum, Paddy. Imagine that one.
Yeah, look, he's it could be a similar deal to what has been reported with Aaron Ramsey, but that seems to have fallen through the cracks now, or it's just taken longer than expected. So, or maybe they're waiting until we get Hull out or Burnley out of the way next week before we agree to move them on. So I don't know. I don't know what's happening with that one, but I got a text before the match about Philogene-Bades, and I thought it was rubbish, but it seems to be reported everywhere now.
Yeah, seems to be. Paddy, talk to me about the goals. Talk to me about John McGinn's performance today. You might have said it, but I've got a really loud young little boy here beside me, so I was concentrating on making sure he hadn't spewed all over himself. A bit like we were at the Forest game last year, Paddy, when we were doing it from the bedroom that time. I was concentrating you didn't spew all over yourself.
We were drunk for that one. I'm so cold sober here now, even though I was in the pub. But yeah. We're trying to get our Lions Club back on track, so I wanted to make sure I was there today. But no alcohol was consumed. But look, it was pedestrian, and we still scored 4 goals. Brilliant. I thought John McGinn was back to himself. Not too much to say about the midfield, because I felt they tried to bypass the midfield, and we didn't use them probably as much as we should either. So Kamara had very little to get involved in. I thought Dougie Luiz until he went off. And you know what? He's right to take him off when you've got a player as important as him on a yellow card and you're 3-0 up or whatever it was at that stage. You use the subs for and use them to our benefit. Yeah, look, there's very little negative you can say. It was a very workmanlike performance. We did look very sweaty in those strips again in the warm weather of
I saw Rob Warner in the comments there, and Rob Warner liking that. He said that, oh no, we've got someone crying here beside me, Paddy. You talk about the jersey.
Yeah, Rob suggested that I think he said it was like kitchen paper with loft insulation, and that's what was causing the sweaty the sweaty bodies underneath it. But look, I think the sweaty jerseys are the least of our worries. It's winning games is the most important thing, and we've got back to our the way we finished last season, which was putting them away early, and we're in a much better place, as I say. Thankfully, we've a decent opposition next week, also, as in a decent game to follow. I think I heard Dan Bardell say during the week that this was the ideal fixture, and it turned out to be the ideal fixture because we got exactly what we needed, and that's points on the board, a few goals, back to zero on our goal difference, We can look forward and put it down as a blip last week.
Yeah, I think so. Well, look, I think Newcastle played played as good as they have played in the last 12 months last week as well. I think they played really well. They capitalized on our mistakes. You saw them against Man City, a team that were, obviously the best team in England, and potentially the best team in Europe. Well, they are based on winning the Champions League last season, but you know what I mean by it. That I think that if we had less bravado, I think last week, instead of trying to go for it, if we gone there and tried to eke out a 0-0 draw, played a bit closer, played with better spacing in midfield and defence, I think we could have eked out a draw out of that game. And I think, but Newcastle are a very, very good team. Everton weren't, and we look what we can do when we play against a team that maybe come and didn't have all their ideas together. People were very worried, and we mentioned in the pre-match podcast, and I would never jinx anyone like that, but people were worried about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But the reason I brought up about when was his last goal from play, it was almost a year ago, and he's been a bit of a busted flush now for the last 2 years. So they need help. Neil Maupay, he has his odd purple patch here and there. Danjuma didn't rip it up with Spurs either last year. Most of Danjuma's best work has come on the wing for Villarreal in a counter-attacking team, and in the Championship for Bournemouth. They've Tom Cannon is out on loan for him. They've sold Ellis Sims. Arguably, they've sold two better strikers away from Everton than Danjuma and Dominic Calvert and Neil Maupay and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Arguably, it's really interesting to see what they're going to do, and I think as well that back line, that back two, yes, they might have had their purple time at Burnley under Sean Dyche, but it did look very much like last season for them again, today, and that I'd be worried if I was an Everton fan. But then again, a lot of Newcastle fans were saying, "Oh, I'd be worried if I was a Newcastle fan yesterday." I suppose so. It's all in the call and the fall of the ball, in the day. Yeah. So Villa capitalised on what they needed to, and that was it.
Yeah, there was a couple of people complaining about Watkins' forced touch, and I totally agree. And I agree with this one too. He was gifted a goal, but it's important to get your first goal. But Lee Johnson, I hope he turn you over on Wednesday.
Yeah. Is that Lee Johnson? Is that the real Lee Johnson? Is that wait a minute, Everton, check his IP address and see is it coming from Edinburgh. Check his IP address, see is it coming from Edinburgh. I don't know if it's that Lee Johnson. So that means we've Michael Richards and Lee Johnson in the chat. That's fantastic stuff. Paddy, talk to me about I'll talk to you about Kamara, because I watched him like a hawk today, and I'm looking forward to going back to it again. And I think the Kamara-Louise axis was much different today than it was against Newcastle. And against Newcastle, it looked like they wanted to, how will I put this? They wanted to disengage from their midfield because they knew their midfield was a bit more robust and a bit more like Joe Linton, as I said, is like a bouncer. He's like a bouncer inside there. It's very difficult to get past him. He looks like he got a bad this year. It's a shame, because you want your best players all the time. You want to be playing against teams with their best players too, because that's the spectacle of it. But I think today that we engaged more in midfield, we were given a lot more opportunity to, but we did play against the big bruiser in midfield like Onana, but we made him look very, very passive today. And the reason I think that was because we allowed Kamara to withdraw completely out of it. Last week, I think we withdrew with Kamara and Luis. But today we only withdrew Kamara. He was a lot more comfortable there when he was a bit more withdrawn. And I think Luis then was able to hoover up everything in the centre circle. And I thought Douglas Luiz again was absolutely fantastic. I love the corner routines that we had. We knew pucking it into the box like that was just going to be bread and butter to Sean Dyche's team. Playing those short corners drew everyone out, brought the players off the posts, and then gave us a fighting chance as people were coming out to whip it in behind them to have our other players running in, because whatever kind of blocking and chipping and grabbing and holding that goes on before the corner is taken and as the corner is taken, that becomes completely out of play when a cross comes in from a short corner. And you will get penalties from it, and you will get opportunities from it. And players know they can't have their hands in you at that stage. What did you make of it, Paddy? Or am I overthinking it?
Well, I'll go back to your original question about the midfield. I do. Yeah, I felt there was a lot less pressure on them today. I thought that the Everton midfield were a lot more withdrawn than the pressure was put on last weekend, and the pressure was put on last weekend led to them being out of position quite a lot, which led to those through balls being able to just picked off at random. We were playing against a different beast. I refuse to say that Newcastle were 4 goals better than us last week. We certainly were 4 goals better today, but we were more organised in midfield, more organised in midfield completely. I felt that even last week that one player was going and the other player was going with them rather than somebody staying and keeping that solidity there, and that was costing us. We had cases where Kamara and Louise were both going when we were in attack, and it just left the whole thing open. That didn't happen today. Everything seemed to go wide as well. Now, obviously, I was in.
Did we lose you, Paddy?
Full of people. It felt to me like we bypassed that midfield and kept the ball wider.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. I think it was really. But I think our tactics were spot on today. I think we were like a lot was said. Oh, who's going to come in? Is Pau Torres going to? Is he going to be able to hack it? Now I know today wasn't the biggest challenge for him, but Pau Torres is very seasoned. He's a well-oiled oiled centre half there, and I thought he played okay. Yeah, he got caught with one ball. It was 1-1-2 that I can't remember who it was that played. And played it, but and they got in behind him, and Martinez made the save, all right. But I had no concerns over his positioning. We didn't have to deal with much in the air. I do think Ezri Konsa was brilliant today, though. I thought Ezri Konsa, I can't remember who it was. It was in the first half. Ezri Konsa just sat a man down. I think it might have been Doucouré. The ball came to him. It was kind of a quick pass out of defence in their transition, and it came to him, and Konsa just sat him down. At one stage, if I remember rightly, and I went, that's kind of what we need. We need somebody to step up, and the more I've been thinking about it all week, I think Ezri Konsa could be that man to kind of say, right, this is it. Somebody needs to put in this last ditch block, or needs to fire their head where it needs to be fired, and I think Konsa could be that man going forward. So I thought he was really good. Yeah, Paddy, Wednesday. Will we touch on it, or will we bother, or will we wait? There's going to be a lot spoken about it about Wednesday, I think, between now and then. And I think your your camera is freezing anyway. I think that your internet is blowing in and out. Somebody asked, is the match being televised this Wednesday? The game against Hibs. It's on BBC Scotland. Both legs are on BBC Scotland, so you will be able to watch those on BBC Scotland if you can so avail. I think we might leave it at that, everybody, because I think I've lost Paddy. I'll just get to some of your comments there. Diego Carlos came on. I saw somebody mentioning there about Diego Carlos. It was great to see him. I think as well there was one stage there where he just kind of caressed, is how I would put it, Maupe out of the way, like it was like a fully grown man, putting his arm over or across a child at one stage. So Diego Carlos, while he didn't have much to do, he did enough when he came on to ease himself back into it. But no, I think overall it was a very good performance. And Paddy added himself, and I was trying to add him at the same time. But you're back, Paddy. I think you're still stuttering in and out here on your camera, but I don't know, were you saying anything there before you had to log off?
I was saying that I had some connection issues by the looks of it. I think I'm restored.
Yeah.
Look, we're probably going to be, the people are going to be sick of looking at us podcasting for the next 4 months with Sunday, Thursday. So we might give Hibs the respect they deserve of having a podcast totally to themselves. After all, it is our first European podcast as for the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. So we'll do it maybe Monday or Tuesday and have more time to look over what happened today and enjoy what the fruits of European football will have to offer going forward, because today just feels like a load lifted off the shoulder. It has been a bit of an embarrassing week, and I think this just puts last Saturday to bed, that we're capable of putting teams away like we did today. They've put in the performance that we hoped and expected of them, and it's time now to turn the screw on Hibs and push us into Europe. That we are going to have some amazing Thursday night football at Villa Park and further afield. And I'm really excited after today. Again, I've got my mojo back. I'm feeling a whole lot more positive about it.
Excellent, excellent stuff. I think we're going to leave it at that because my little fella here is going to explode a bit. I think he's going to start crying again any minute. But look, 4-0 win for Aston Villa, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. There was 500,000 people there at one stage watching this. Watching this, there was over 500,000 watching this at one stage. So thank you so much. Please hit the thumbs up. Give us a like, give us a sub on the way out if you aren't subscribed to the podcast. And if audio podcasts are your thing, all of these do go up on the audio podcast. We ask again, if just subscribe on the audio podcast. You don't have to listen or anything, just subscribe. It shows the algorithm out there as well. And as Ronan Ward says there, we're 9th. We're above Man United. So go out and celebrate tonight and have a great time. Thanks so much, everybody. We're going to leave it at that. Really appreciate all the time that you spend with the podcast. Listen, everybody, we will be back sooner rather than later. I might even be back later on tonight. I've got a podcast in the offing for later on tonight. So if you're at Nutting and you're coming home after a few pints celebrating Aston Villa, come and join us later on tonight as well. But until then, see you later, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.